Why Andrew Tate is toxic and probably a narcissist. Most likely a narcissist. The reason is this. He does what is so-called toxic metaframing. Toxic metaframing is when you put others down, when you suppress them, because you're truly not happy yourself. Because if you were truly happy yourself, you wouldn't feel the necessity to put others down. The thing is that narcissists usually don't see that they're unhappy. They pretend to be happy to themselves even, in order to not face the truth that there's unresolved karmas, traumas, and issues within their own body energy. And if you notice that Andrew Tate does a lot of toxic metaframing towards his brother and to other people, even Adin, what's his name is, that came to visit him. And so the likelihood of Andrew Tate being actually an unhappy person is almost at 100%. But he's the perpetrator, not the victim of the narcissistic trait of putting others down. And when somebody tries to... And by the way, you know how you can notice that he's a narcissist? Because Adin, when he visited Andrew Tate, Andrew Tate would toxic metaframe him a lot of times. And then there were moments where you could see that Adin is trying to push back, toxic metaframe him back, which is a reaction of of the victim of narcissism. The victim of narcissism, if he gets constantly toxic metaframed, he only has three options: to cush and become smaller energetically, which is very unhealthy; to try to toxic metaframe him back; or to leave the situation. The problem is with expert narcissists is that any kind of interaction with a narcissist, you're always going to lose, because they're so 100% convinced about their ways that you're going to always lose this situation. So the only correct way to deal with Andrew Tate is actually leave him physically alone. And the interesting thing is that Tristan Tate is the victim of Andrew Tate's toxic metaframing, but he doesn't realize that. And it happens a lot between families and between brothers and within families and all kinds of constellations. And I noticed that in many videos Andrew Tate puts Tristan down, and he tries to argue with him, of course, because it's the problem. There's a certain problem with narcissistic behaviors, is that as the victim, you might have a connection with him. You might be dependent in terms of heart chakra. You're connected with them. You love them because, for example, it's his brother, right? So you love him. So on the heart chakra level, you're connected. But Andrew is unhappy, so he puts Tristan down. The second thing is, what was I gonna say? Skip me now. It's gonna come back. I'm getting kind of cold. It's getting evening and it's starting to get cold, so that's why. So to cut it short, it makes sense once you understand toxic metaframing, which is trying to put someone else down because you're unhappy. The best way to deal with it is leave it. The thing is, most people are not able to leave it, so they like the perpetrator-victim dynamic, and within a family, they feel almost obligated to accept this dynamic. But if I were Tristan, I would leave Andrew Tate. I'm not joking. I would leave him and create my own life with my own children and everything, because it's actually not healthy for Tristan to be in Andrew Tate's. It's energetically, psychoenergetically not healthy for him. And I mean, they've done this from very little on, probably since they were very little, so for them it seems normal. But toxic metaframing is never normal. It's a narcissistic behavior in which the narcissist actually wants you to feel bad rather than good, but they pretend that they want the best for you, but it's not true. And the narcissist cannot see it because they're not conscious of what they're doing. It's basically a trait that is trying to protect the experience of re-traumatization by working through the trauma that has actually precipitated the actual trauma. And I believe actually that Andrew Tate is very traumatized on especially the heart chakra level. I think there's some kind of feeling that I would say he hasn't been loved enough or totally accepted. And that's quite common, that to not feel accepted by parents nowadays. Since ever. But with him it seems quite kind of strong. That's why he always shows himself as high performing, because he wants to be accepted so much. He wants to be accepted by the world. He wants to be accepted by everyone. And once you spiritually awaken, all of this which Andrew Tate talks about, whether it's the cars or anything, it falls away anyway. The libido self-empowerment doesn't fall away, but that's not that important. It doesn't need to fall away. That's what I'm trying to say, is you can live your libido self-empowerment without being identified with all these things. For example, if I live my libido self-empowerment and I have nice girls around me and we have a loving heart chakra relationship, then I'm fine without needing to have all these material things. And it's a fallacy to assume that all women want those material things. I mean, they're great for marketing purposes and for Andrew Tate, but he seems obsessed and identified by them. But why would you get 30 cars? It makes absolutely no fucking sense. In reality, it's actually the opposite of what we should be doing in terms of like letting go of this hyper capitalistic machine of consumption and materialism. But that's another story for some other time. So learn about toxic metaframing, libido, self-empowerment, spiritual awakening, and you will realize that what Andrew Tate is doing is actually, there's a German word for it, which is Übersprungshandlung. It's basically, he doesn't want to see his trauma. That's why he's doing everything that he's doing. And he's confusing it with libido self-empowerment. You can be libido self-empowered and still look at your trauma. But he is pretending kind of that libido self-empowerment is the healing of his trauma, which it is not.